quick announcement off the top here. So, as some of you might know, I have joined up with Team Revive Stronger, so that means that there will no longer be the School of Muscle podcast, but that doesn't mean I'm going away. There won't be any of the interviews anymore, but there still will be weekly content on this channel where right now I'm kind of thinking a weekly Q&A, plus I'll have an additional either video or vlog covering a specific topic, probably a couple times a month. So that's kind of my game plan moving forward here. Like, at first I thought that I might go separate ways with the channel, or that it would be best for Revive because that might be competing a little bit, but we kind of talked it through, and it just made sense that if I was just doing like Q&As and vlogs and that sort of thing, that is just building my personal brand, and that there's people that enjoy those as well outside of the podcast, and that still helps people out. So there won't be the interviews anymore, but don't worry, your boy is still going to be making these videos for you. So I just want to get that out of the way. Today's episode is going to be a Q&A. Do you guys like when I put some B-roll with these Q&As? Like, I'm thinking like 20 to 30 minute episodes is kind of what I'm thinking, just because these are just going to be on YouTube. So I feel like there might be a little bit better audience retention if they're just a little bit on the shorter side, and if I'm doing them weekly, maybe a little bit on the shorter side as well. So 20 to 25, 30 minutes, somewhere in there is kind of what I'm thinking, but be sure to let me know, and also let me know if you like when I put a little bit of B-roll of training footage or of random food, coffee stuff in here as well, or if on the Q&As you just kind of like them raw and maybe you're cooking or doing something and you just kind of have it on the background and you like seeing my good looks every once in a while. Maybe that's the case. So let me know in the comments below. I've probably talked too much already here in this little intro sequence, but the first question of today's Q&A comes from Sean MR, and he says, why in general is load prioritized over reps for hypertrophy? So I do kind of agree with Sean that it's often the case to where people either think, okay, for building muscle, the first places people usually go is either the camp of adding more sets or adding load. And adding reps isn't talked about quite as much, probably. And I think that this is maybe the case because I think people maybe put them in the same box. So I think when people think about adding reps, they probably also think, well, you're getting stronger and you technically can add load as well. And same thing when people are talking about adding volume. Well, if you're adding reps, you're still kind of adding volume and doing that sort of thing. So I don't necessarily think that it is people are just saying you shouldn't try to increase reps. I think it's more so when they're saying that you should get stronger or add volume over time, they're including reps along with that. Now, I do think that there's some potential problems with just focusing on adding reps. One of those is that you're soon probably going to find yourself in a rep range that might not make a lot of sense for a certain exercise. For example, if you just focus on adding reps on the squat and you start doing like 20 rep squats, I mean, that's cool and all, but I think that it might make more sense to work in a lower rep range because you might run into some systemic fatigue opposed to peripheral fatigue because for example, you might be winded by the 18th rep, and that might be limiting how many total reps you can do rather than just like your peripheral fatigue in terms of your muscle. So when I'm saying peripheral fatigue, I'm talking about your muscle. And Chris Beardsley has talked about before how like sometimes on these higher rep sets, the limiting factor for these sets is the systemic fatigue, this metabolic fatigue, rather than like muscular fatigue. And if that's the case, then you might not be recruiting your entire spectrum of motor units. And I believe that he also mentioned a study that suggests when you work in these lower, relatively lower rep ranges in compared to high rep ranges. Now, there's also literature saying that it doesn't matter a lot, but there's a little bit saying that you might see a little bit better muscle and strength if you're recruiting more motor units and maybe not working in these high rep ranges all the time. Now, what's high? 15 to 20 plus all the time. I probably wouldn't do that all the time, but every once in a while, I think that's fine. Working in metabolite techniques every once in a while, I think that's fine. But in terms of practicality, I think that it's actually probably the most practical to try to get stronger for reps over time. And that's coming from a guy that's a proponent of increasing volume across the mesocycle. Now, I don't necessarily think the two have to be separated. I think that you can add volume across the mesocycle as kind of jumping with your recovery capabilities, which is what I do. And I don't program that way for all of my clients. And by the way, I should have mentioned that announcement. Did I mention that I'm coaching for Revive Stronger now? I might have, but we're first starting out as kind of more as a intern a little bit and then kind of transitioning into like full-on coaching. So if you are interested in coaching for me specifically, before I kind of turn the corner as a full-time coach for Revive, and then I just start for people that apply for coaching with Revive Stronger, then I'll just start taking some clients like from the pot of people that apply, if that makes sense. So if you want coaching specifically for me and you want it to be done at a rate that is probably a little bit more affordable for a lot of people before I start transitioning to full-on coaching with Revive, then I will have that linked up in my description box below. Unless I forget, then comment, yo, Nimrod, coaching link. I want to be hooked up by you. What's going on? Then I'll have that in the description and you can have coaching for me and I'll help you out. But anyways, I don't necessarily accumulate volume for each and every one of my clients because sometimes it just doesn't make sense on the situation. But in general, I like using that approach and it seems to work pretty well. But even throughout a single mesocycle, I'm still trying to get stronger for reps and for across my sets. I still am. Because, I mean, how much load you're using is like infinitely scalable. Whereas the volume in terms of sets you're doing, I don't think is infinitely scalable. Because what are you going to do? Get to a point to where you're doing like 40 sets per muscle per week? Man, that's not going to be very practical for most people to do that much volume per week. Even if somehow you could recover from that on a per muscle group basis, it just isn't going to be practical from a time standpoint. So I do think it makes sense to accumulate volume jumping with your recovery capabilities across the mesocycle, but not accumulating it so much to where you never really get any stronger, or not taking periods of deloads and stuff like that to where you never reduce fatigue and can move more load, because over time, I think that you're going to have to get stronger. And I also think that rep range, like I said, isn't really infinitely scalable as well, because I think you're going to run into those metabolic and systemic fatigue before you run into that peripheral fatigue. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea with where I'm at with that there, Sean. And the next question comes from Gary, and he says, the premise of the question was basically that he sees how it makes sense to push up to pretty close to your MRV and get pretty close to like overreaching in your final week. But his question was like, what do you do in that last week if you're feeling pretty fatigued and you don't get good sleep a couple nights, or you have more stress, or life circumstances come up, and what do you do then? Do you just kind of power through it and go for it, even though you know you're going to be pretty over your MRV, or what do you do on that final overreaching week when life brings more stress? And that's a good question. I think that stress really is cumulative, and that these life stressors could really impact your MRV, and I believe there's research on this as well. I don't know it off the top of my head, and by the way, I am currently writing like 2 pages of my literature review each day on chrononutrition, so you guys can expect a chrononutrition review here within the next several months while I'm working towards my master's degree. So you better make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. How about that segue? Aren't segways like those little things that you ride in the mall, like Paul Blart, Mall Cop? Isn't there like a second Mall Cop too? Like I saw the first one, I was like, it's all right, there's some funny moments in there. And then I think a second one came out, but I'm not sure. Was he still working in a mall? I feel, how could there be a second one? Anywho, what were we talking about? So, man, I really don't remember. Yeah, stress is cumulative. There we go. And in my advanced sports psychology class, apparently it's not that advanced if I can't pronounce it right, but in that class, we discuss how you can better manage stress. And there's a few things to this, and I just want to preface this by saying that I am not a psychologist. This is just like scratching the surface of how deep someone could go into this. But in this class or this course, learning about sports psych and perceptions of stress and that sort of thing, we did learn a few different things that could be potentially helpful. And one of those things, like the biggest thing, is changing your reaction to stress and trying to perceive that stress differently. Because if you can perceive that stress differently, then it can have like drastically different physiological impacts. Now, how do you actually do that? How do you perceive stress as less stressful? That's a difficult one. But if it's in an acute setting, so if it's something that happened right now, you're stressed out. You're driving in the car, some MFer cuts you off, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to freak out. What can you do in that moment to chill out a little bit? Well, one thing that you could try out is leading with your body language. So if you feel stressed out, try to keep a nice, like, open, relaxed body language. And you can also smile, because just that act of smiling can help you feel less stressed out. So you might have to fake it a little bit. See, I started that with a fake smile, and then it ended up being like a genuine smile. So that's just kind of how it works. If you lead with your like body language, then things can tend to follow. So maybe I'm stressed out. Maybe the guys over at Revive Strong are giving me a bunch of shit to do, and I just don't want to do it, and I'm pissed off. And I'm just kidding. That has never happened, and I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future. But let's just say I get a shit ton of work and I'm getting stressed out. I'm going to feel far less stressed out like while I'm working on that work if I'm, laid back, have a big smile on my face. No, I don't work with a smile on my face, although some people might think so with how I am sometimes. But regardless, I don't do that. But I'm always, try to make sure to be laid back, try to be open body language in comparison to if I was like all tightened up, my shoulders were all forward and I'm all tensed up and I'm just freaking out about it. That's going to have, I think, pretty different physiological responses. And another thing that you can do in an acute setting is taking deep breaths. Just taking a breath, breathing out slowly, and just relaxing. I also like to remind myself of my mortality, and that seems to help. Now, it's rather morbid to think about, yeah, I'm going to die someday. But that perspective can be like, man, I'm going to die someday. I want to get after my goals. I want to get after what I want to get done. And I'm just not going to give a shit about what some people think about me. If I said that I don't care about what anybody thinks about me, that would be a lie. But there's some people where I just can't care what they think, and I have to get after what I want because I'm going to die someday, and I don't want to look back on the time I spent, the short amount of time that I spent, and be like, shit, what did I do? Why did I let people that honestly aren't even like caring about me, caring about themselves, most people, you know, why did I let them prevent me from chasing down what I want to do? And why am I stressing myself out about some of this stuff to when in reality, I'm going to die someday. And I only have so much amount of time to get after what I want to do, to help people, to provide a positive impact on others, and to do things that are meaningful to me. I only have a certain amount of time to do that. So why are you getting stressed out about this person cutting you off? And why are you spending that negative energy on those people? So in acute setting, those are kind of the things I look towards to manage my stress. Now, in a more long-term setting, things that I like to do to kind of change that perception of stress a little bit would be a little bit of meditation. I know it sounded like woo-woo to me at first too. Trust me, it did. I was like, what are all these people talking about meditation for? Are they trying to sell me something like an ebook or something and trying to take my money? What are they trying to do? But then I tried a few guided meditation apps, and I personally think that it helped with my sleep. It helped with my day-to-day stresses because, you know, I went through a portion of my life, like months in a row, to where I just couldn't like shut my mind off when I was going to bed, and meditating on a daily basis really helped me with that. And at least I think it did. Could have I accidentally like done something else during that time to where I didn't even realize it, but that was resulting in better sleep and not meditation? Probably. There's that chance. There always is. I wasn't in a laboratory setting, so I didn't have control of all these factors. But I do think it helps. And if you're looking for something to get started with meditation, I believe it's oh my gosh, something by Sam Harris. I think it's like Wakefulness by Sam Harris. Let me check my phone. It's called Waking Up by Sam Harris. And unless it was Sean Harris, I'm not checking again. Waking Up, something Harris, and it's free. I am not an affiliate with them. I don't know, but I've really liked this one. There's also like Headspace is a good one, but Headspace is annoying because it asks me to like subscribe to their yearly thing every freaking time I log on, so that's annoying. So I just went with this guy and this like past week, and I've really liked it. But I found that it's easier for myself to stick to meditating when I use a different app with it. And man, I really think that it helps with my day-to-day stress levels. And I know that you might think that this is outside of like the typical training and nutrition stuff, but man, I really don't think it is. I think that managing your day-to-day stress and your life stress matters. Like when I think back to high school, and like high school is literally like socializing, eating food, playing cards, driving around town. I came from a really small town in Iowa, and literally what we did for fun was we meet up at the lot. The lot is what we called it because we're cool, you know? Meet at the lot. Hey, let's you going to the lot tonight? Yeah, man, I'm going to the lot. That's what we do. And So lame. It was just a high school parking lot. And we would literally all get into one car, have like 5 of us in a car. We'd go drive around like gravel roads and just talk about life and stuff. And man, I miss that. So one thing that we would do for fun. Sorry if this is like not related, but I'll circle around. You know I'm coming. But one thing we would do for fun is we would climb up like these little farm equipment and stuff like that around town, and we would climb up like silos, and we'd climb up onto the roof of our high school, and then the janitor started putting like oil on the little pipe we used so we'd all get our clothes dirty. And anywho, that's what we did for fun in my hometown. But when I think about high school, it's just so like chill, and I felt like I could do anything in the gym and recover from it. Like I could get away with ridiculous amounts of training. Like I'm someone that just pushed it to the max in high school. Like junior and senior year, I remember we would lift for football, American football, the real football, you know, my soccer friends out there, or my football friends. Just kidding. Football, soccer is cool too. It's whatever you want to do. I don't give a shit. But I would train for football for like an hour. And then I would tell myself, like, I'm not going to quit lifting until wrestling practice would get over. And I didn't wrestle. So I'd wait until I saw all my wrestling buddies get done with practice. And I'd tell myself I'm working in the gym until then. So I wanted to get bigger for football and baseball and that sort of thing. So that would result in me lifting from like 3 p.m. in the afternoon until like 5:30 p.m. Like two and a half hour sessions, 5 days a week, like within my first like year of more bodybuilding style training. And you know, I definitely like saw some results, but it was overkill and a half to the nth degree. And I was also cutting, because I cut down from like 220 to 170 my junior high school, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to say is that I think I got away with that and still saw good results because my stress levels outside of the gym were so low. And I think that having a daily practice of just unplugging and relaxing is a good idea and can have legitimate results in your favor for this whole bodybuilding and lifting thing. And to touch on something is CBD oil. So I get it, man. Like, it's really cool when new supplements are coming out and there's potential beneficial effects of stress and anxiety and stuff like that. That is awesome. I love seeing that. And some people anecdotally are saying that it helps them out. And who am I to say that it's not? So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that CBD oil or something like that doesn't work for some people. I'm not saying that. But hear me out. CBD oil is going to cost you a significant amount of money if you want to take that on a daily basis throughout the month. That's going to be a pretty big investment. I mean, I haven't looked into CBD oil, but I'm guessing that's not something that you necessarily want to go cheap on. And I also don't think that is something that's going to be that affordable for a lot of people to have on a daily basis. So my suggestion, before doing that, maybe you try out some form of just relaxation or meditation each day using a free app, and all it costs you is 10 minutes of your time a day to go through this guided meditation on an app and to see if that helps with your stress and those sort of things throughout the day. Cost free, give it a shot for a month. And if that still doesn't help your day-to-day stress and you want to try, CBD oil or whatever it is after that, and you've looked into the research on it and you think that it's something that you feel is worth your money, then all right, then who am I to tell you what you can and can't do? But I would definitely give this other thing a shot first, you know? So that's just kind of where I stand on that. In this week's Q&A, we covered 2 questions, but make sure you stay subscribed for next week's Q&A. Drop your questions down below. It really makes me happy that, you know, I'm not parting ways from this channel, because I do genuinely enjoy it. And man, I had some people last week telling me, I felt better. I feel better after watching your videos, and your videos really helped me out. And I had people emailing me and reaching out to me and like, no, don't go away with the channel. I'm like, you're right. I don't need to go away with the channel. It's not doing this sort of thing's not competing a whole lot. So I'll see you in that next one.